Welcome back to Chapter by Chapter, where I review a book a chapter at a time and see where it fell apart. The following review will contain spoilers. It's time for more Lightlark. God, this book feels longer than it is. Chapter 26. Oro and Isla are still searching for the heart, and Grimm is AWOL. Well, as AWOL as a guy who can turn invisible and walk through walls can be. Isla asks the obvious question of how the fuck these idiots haven't decided anything in 500 years. Oro condescendingly tells Isla that they can't just pick any ruler to kill. It's because choosing the right ruler and realm to die is the difficult part. Not just because we would be sentencing thousands to death, but because all of our futures depend on the right decision. All of our realms are connected. You can't begin to understand the consequences of losing one of them. Even if we did know the offense that needed to be committed again, the decision of who needs to die would be nearly impossible. That, more than anything else, is why the curses haven't been broken until now. It would be terrible to have to actually do world building explaining it to our POV character. But Aster doesn't know how her world works either. Better to declare Isla, who is also a ruler, too incompetent to understand how the kingdom she theoretically helps rule functions. And this still doesn't explain the Hunger Games setup. If you weren't busy having magical duels and swimming through ice mazes, you might find time to sit down like actual adults who rule actual people and discuss these problems. Like what the original offense might have been. You literally live in a land of immortals. Someone knows something. Isla finally makes the suggestion that Grimm is the obvious choice, even if it makes her squirmy to think of a murdering her dark prince. Oro, being here to be mysterious and unhelpful, tells her that Grimm is the only thing that stands between them and a much greater danger, before storming off without explaining. I guess that was the sequel bait. Isla finishes searching her part of the woods and then just wanders off. The conifers turn into a field of rose bushes, and I have questions about the ecology of that. But she wanders into the bushes, which turn into an unnamed plant with bigger thorns, and then to a wall of thorns. And then the wall attacks. Isn't Isla supposed to be our magic plant expert? Like, even if she ostensibly doesn't have magic of her own, she should know things. Giant spikes are digging into her skin and blood is gushing. Oro arrives to help, despite the fact he is the Sunling ruler. With his primary power being fire, he uses starling magic to slice each thorn one by one, making the sentient plant attacking dig deeper. But our tough little cookie survives. Damn it. And she can remove the spikes herself despite being impaled and covered in blood and vomit. I'm just going to assume at this point it's magic she isn't dead. And the lack of brain cells that she won't accept help of any kind. I'm sure she's supposed to look tough here. This is kind of a long sequence of her pulling spikes out and being in pain. Only after all the spikes are out and she's all but dead does Oro use his moonling magic to heal the wounds. Either Aster is trying to make Oro look incompetent or like the world's biggest dick, or she doesn't know how to write characters with lots of power. Why not heal as the spikes are being pulled, so she doesn't just bleed? Or using the healing to force the spikes out? Creative use of magic is always encouraged. And we conclude the chapter with Oro announcing that they will be visiting an ancient creature, like the one he warned Isla to avoid. Chapter 27. 5 days later, Isla is healed and rested, but Oro hasn't reappeared. Wonder if he made her walk home alone again. Anyway, she decides to meet up with Celeste in public using the guise of an accidental encounter. allowing them to fake becoming friends so if they're caught together it won't seem suspicious. Which seems like it would have been smart to do sooner, but I digress. Outside the store, someone slips her a note saying that she's in danger. And instead of taking a defensive position, Miss I'm good at sneaking plows through the crowded market. And what do you know? It's a trap. Moonling nobles. She recognized them from the demonstration. A growl escaped her throat. She became a little more of the beast they believed her to be. Why am I picturing a furious kitten? A trap. She had been tricked. Fool. No, they were the fools. She lifted her chin high and said with as much venom as she could manage, "Release me and I will show mercy. Keep me bound and you will see what happens when you try to trap a wildling." You know what? In this moment, I truly believe Isla is a 19-year-old shut-in with no real-world experience if she thought that would work. It doesn't, thankfully. And they just chain her tighter. It is time to die, but Celeste makes a dramatic save, and these two young rulers, one without powers, kill a bunch of waterbenders standing next to the ocean. I suppose no one's thought of bloodbending yet? Or just sucking them out to sea. And then they write the word "try harder" in blood, which I think I might like if this scene wasn't so over the top and ridiculous. Chapter 28. Grimm is back. And we get the "I am dangerous, stay away from me, but I am definitely attracted to you" dance. Grimm says this is why she hasn't seen him. Isla apparently forgetting he can turn invisible and walk through walls, missing the implication he's been spying on her. He says he's not her enemy. Isla tells him to prove it. He tells her to ask anything. She asks what Uro meant about Grimm standing between them and a greater danger. Grimm dodges the question. So much for anything. Next, she requests he show her the entrance to Wildling Isle, and they walk into the woods. It's never established where Isla was training, so I guess they can just do that. And the description of Wild Isle isn't bad. Dead trees and lack of life. The problem is that it's just description. This is Isla's home island, the root of her people. In a way, it is a reflection of her own lack of power. This is the time to tell us how she feels. Invoke the five senses. Not just what she sees. What does she hear? The wind through the empty branches, the echo of her own footsteps? Old leaves so dead that they don't even crunch underfoot? What does she smell? Dust? Nothing at all? What does she feel? What does the stone feel like? Has it been made rough or smooth over time? Can she taste the stale air? This is a time for Isla to feel things, not just describe what she sees. Later, she sneaks back onto the island and tries to open a door she found. It's really abbreviated and feels like it should be a separate chapter. Again, she should be feeling things here. Also, she is trying to find a key by sticking random objects into a hole. Like a harp. What's that keyhole even shaped like? Chapter 29. Isla is now obsessed with the door in the Wild Isle Palace. Wild Isle, that's rough to say 3 times fast. And not because it is the home of her people, or for any personal reasons, but because, somehow, it will lead to the Bondbreaker. Her brain is a single marble rolling in a tin can. Her solution is to go to Juniper, the definitely not a fey creature that deals in secrets. She announces that the Moonlings tried to kill her. Girl, you wrote "try harder" in blood. I'm not sure how much of a secret that is. But it's apparently enough for Juniper. He doesn't know about the hidden door, but he does tell her that the Place of Mirrors, aka the Wildling Palace, is the only place on Lightlark where all powers but wildlings are repressed. I think she means suppressed, unless the palace makes people forget they have powers or how to use them. Also, why is it the only place like that? You'd think all the palaces would come with that spell as standard. I'm sure this odd detail won't come back up later. She leaves the pub and walks into a terrible simile. A storm was on the horizon. The sky was filled with dark clouds like a pack of wolves circling, gray fur and all. If the clouds are circling like wolves, it's called a tornado or a hurricane. Not sure why the gray fur bit was needed. That is the part that is in some way vaguely resembles clouds. Naked, mangy wolves would be decidedly less cloud-like. Grim appears, maybe literally. He offers to wipe Juniper's memory or threaten him into silence, which is oddly sweet. And then the sky cracks like an egg. She means it starts raining, but my first thought is it was big lightning splitting the sky. And now I'm thinking about rain, like someone overturned a bucket on her head. Grimm blasts their way into a nearby abbey to seek shelter. An abbey implies some sort of deity they worship, though no religion has been mentioned. Also, it was locked, so either it was abandoned, or they just scared a bunch of nuns or monks. Apparently Isla, who wanted to visit Juniper in secret, and is surprised Grimm found her, was wearing her crown, which is now tangled in her hair. Once again, she is very good at sneaking. Grimm helps her get the crown off and hits on her by saying he can't tell her how he feels in a place like this. They are in the sanctuary with pews and stained glass windows. So we're just going with implied Christian imagery then. To what end? If you're going to be so uncreative as to copy-paste one of the world's largest religions into your fantasy novel, at least do something interesting with it. Isla wants to see his power, and he says he can't show her in the abbey. Why? Because they are inside, or because his dark powers offend God? They go back into the rain. Why was this building an abbey? It could have been a warehouse for all the difference it made. Standing on a conveniently dramatic cliff that is here in town, Grimm unleashes his power. It is dark fire. It burns anything it touches instantly to ash. Isla begs for more, because Shadow Daddy powers make her hot. Something, something, rain, soaking wet. Grimm teleports them down to the beach. So Grimm can teleport, turn invisible, walk through walls, and burn things instantly into nothing. How has he not railroaded everyone yet? Grimm realizes Isla's all hot and bothered by his powers and does the "I am dangerous, you should be afraid" monologue. She follows this with "I want to stay away from you, but I can't" monologue. We're almost halfway through this book. Please get on with it or don't. Isla remembers she's supposed to be afraid of him, and Grimm decides it's time to take her back to the castle. Chapter 30. Oro is finally back. It took him 8 days to find and make a deal with the ancient creature. It's on Star Isle, which is silvery and glittery. Everything, including the trees. And the palace is made of stars. Celeste once told her that to starlings, the stars looked brighter than they did to everyone else, like millions of moons, or shining fruit ripe for the picking. Have Aster similes always been this bad? First cloud wolves, and now fruit, and stars that shine like millions of moons? Also, how do starlings have functioning eyeballs if everything is this bright? If every star is like a million moons, or, the sun, how is the world not just complete white light all the time? For that matter, what does the sun look like? They walk through a glittery forest and to an abandoned, overgrown building. The fact that everything is done in silver glitter feels like it would mess with depth perception. Anyway, the ancient creature is a specter, who Oro agreed could joyride in Isla's body without asking Isla's permission or even warning her. Well, that's got some unsavory undertones to it. Oro assures her the specter will only hijack her body for a few minutes and asks Isla to trust him. He points out he didn't even mention he was selling her body for a favor. He asks what it will take for her to trust him, and she wants unsupervised access to the Sunling library. Isla, honey, how is that proof you trust him? What about that request holds him to anything? He could say yes and still leave the specter in you. Also, under the circumstances, that is an oddly specific and weird request. I'm sure that won't make him suspicious at all. Oro agrees and Isla is possessed. It's a weightless feeling. When she gets her mind back, it seems the specter tried to use her body to roll for seduction on Oro, who thankfully appears to have behaved himself. The specter's information is unhelpful, only that the heart isn't on Star Isle this time, and foreboding darkness is rising. Isla demands to be taken to the library, only for Oro to point out there was no time frame where he had to give her access. Isla finally tells him to go fuck himself, and frankly, good for her. End chapter. I am tired. The similes here are weird. Like Aster wanted to make the scene more colorful and just decided to match clouds and wolves. Why not clouds rolling in like nightmares or churning like smoke? And then we have absolutely random religious iconography. The abbey is just there, near a pub, and a convenient dramatic cliff overlooking the ocean. They could have gone back into the pub for all the difference it made. Everything in a story needs a purpose, needs to add to the story, build the characters, add to the world building, advance the plot. It honestly feels like they went into the abbey just so they could be forced back out into the rain for the drama of the Dark Prince using his powers on a cliff overlooking a stormy sea. Because Grimm's dark powers aren't welcome in church, I guess. And once again, I request a map of this damn island. This story has gone on way too long for what's in it. Thank you for your time. I know everyone's mileage will vary, so feel free to leave your thoughts.